for those of you who don't know, there was a U.S. soldier by the name of Aaron Bushnell. Sorry, I didn't want to get his name wrong. He's 25, and he went outside of the Israeli embassy and had himself covered in gasoline, and then said something along the lines of, you know, this is a peaceful act of protest, a radical act of protest. Well, not peaceful, but a radical act of protest. I am going to burn myself, light myself on fire and burn myself. Now, we're not going to watch the whole video. We're probably going to watch the first minute as he walks up and talks calmly, so you can at least hear his perspective as to why he did it. And then we're going to talk about it, because this stuff is wild. Of course, we're not going to watch it. I'll describe what happens afterward, because I have seen the video and it's not good. But I do think that, you know, this type of, I mean, this is a pretty insane story, so I do think we need to talk about it since everybody else is talking about it too. So I mean, even if I wanted to avoid the conversation, I don't think we should. Let's go.
Is Aaron Bushnell. I am an active duty member of the United States Air Force, and I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I'm about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it's not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be normal.
The Embassy of Ghana. I think right next to it should be the Embassy of Israel. So then he puts down this camera phone, he takes out his cap, he puts it on his head, he covers himself in gasoline, and then he lights himself on fire. Now, I'm not going to play the next part, but he struggles to light the lighter. He eventually does light the lighter, and he catches completely on fire. And as he catches completely on fire, we're not going to watch the video for a million different reasons, but I'm not going to watch it because it's honestly pretty bad. And if you want to watch it yourself, that's your business. You can go off and watch it. But people burning to death is one of the worst ways to go. And it's repulsive, and I wouldn't be able to show it if I could, and even if I could show it, I wouldn't want to. Also, the family blurred the video, so all we would listen to is the audio, and I just don't want to listen to it. But what happens is, as he struggles with the lighter, eventually, after a few clicks, he gets it working, he gets caught on fire, and then he just starts yelling "Free Palestine," and he yells it again and again and again. But each time as he yells it, the way he yells it, it gets more like gritted, as in he's like gritting his teeth, and like "Free Palestine," it gets more guttural and guttural and guttural, to the point where eventually he falls over because he's completely engulfed in flames. His uniform is completely on fire. It's like plastering to his skin. Awful. And he's like seeing his last flashes of life, and he screams in pain. But after he screams in pain, he returns to yelling "Free Palestine" gutturally, and his last words were like a guttural, like kind of "Free Palestine." Like he gurgles, as High Progressive put it in chat. He gurgles it out, and then he's gone. Now, I believe he succumbed to his injuries later. There's a few things I want to talk about in the video that I can't show. There's pictures of it online, but I don't want to. I don't want to show it because I don't even want to risk anything. The cops that eventually come, they do get a fire extinguisher and put him out after like a minute, but he's on fire for a minute, and he's completely drenched himself in clothing, in gasoline, with nothing to put it out, and he doesn't seem to attempt to put it out. And so a minute in those like his death was like, I mean, maybe if they got to him much sooner, like 10, 15 seconds, I don't know, but his injuries were horrific. So he dies due to his injuries later. But during the process of him falling to the ground, there's a cop, and it's been talked about everywhere, who kind of runs up and just points a gun at him while he's burning on the ground. Now, a lot of people have been like speculating, why the hell is this cop pointing a gun at somebody burning to death as if it was going to protect anyone? And, you know, obviously I'm not in the cop's head. I would have to think that, you know, there's somebody on fire in front of an embassy, and you're, you know, a cop, Secret Service agent. I see some people saying it could be Secret Service agent, some sort of representative of the law. And there's somebody on fire in front of an embassy. Maybe he thought they were strapped up with a bomb. Maybe they thought there was some threat in some other way. But even if they did, still don't see what shooting him would have accomplished. Because, like, if he did have a bomb and you just waited there pointing the gun at them, then, like, they'd pull the trigger and blow up. And if they, like, it doesn't really make much sense to me. I assume, like, the cop probably didn't know what, like, if you were a cop, right? I assume most of you aren't, and you just saw somebody on fire at work, right? I think for a lot of people, it might be hard to react, or you wouldn't really know what to do. Either way, that was the death of this guy. They posted a bunch of stuff. His family gave permission to post a bunch of stuff about him. Here's some messages from he is one of the most principled comrades I've ever known, said Zelam, who worked with Bushnell to support San Antonio's unhoused residents. He's always trying to think about how we can achieve liberation for all with a smile on his face. So I'm gonna try to put because man, this video really kind of grabbed me by the neck because it's really bad. So the first thing I want to say is, I'm obviously not in his head, but if I was trying to figure out why somebody might do this, it would have to be, and if you listen to the tone of his video, because he felt powerless to do something about what was going on in Gaza, that he couldn't go there and stop it with his bare hands or stop the Israelis from bombing it. Like, he could try to get involved in like activism or aid, but he himself, he cannot stop it. He doesn't have the power to, on an individual level, immediately do that. And so when you see so much horrific death and destruction, 26,000 or 30,000, who knows exactly how many dead in the Gaza Strip, and you know that it's not ending, as far as we know, anytime soon, and it's going to drag on and on and on. It's been going on for months and months and months and months and months, and you felt powerless that time, and you just try to start looking for ways to help. He somehow came to the conclusion that a form of protest that this isn't the first time it's been done. Other people have tried to burn themselves to death and have succeeded in burning themselves to death in other forms of protest before. But it seems that his thought was, I'm powerless to stop this, so let's make the biggest message I can. How can I make a big message? I don't got a big TikTok. I don't got a big Twitter. I don't got any big that. I know a way to make a big message. I'm a U.S. soldier. Not only would this, you know, get a big message if I burnt myself, period, but if I do it in uniform, showing that I loved my country and was willing to, you know, put myself on the line for our nation, but also, you know, for these other people, maybe it'd get some attention. Look, I'm not him. I'm trying to look into his mind, into why he would make this incredibly self-destructive decision. So the first thing I want to say is that he probably, almost certainly, could have helped more people if he did not burn himself to death. I don't ultimately know how much him doing this is going to have an impact, because it happened a few days ago. So far, we don't see any immediate impact. We see, you know, people, you know, commemorating him at marches. We see people commemorating him online. We see people trying to use his death to try to raise the voices of Palestinians in some instances. But it hasn't really changed anything. And I don't think it's going to have that much of effect on anything. And when I think about the amount of effect this guy could have had in the long run, him sticking with it for another 60 years, feeding who knows how many countless homeless people, or housing who knows how many countless homeless people, or sticking with it so that when this war is over and everybody else has moved on from Gaza because it's no longer fashionable, he could get involved in the rebuilding process for the civilians there, which will not only be necessary in Gaza, but will also be necessary in countries like Ukraine too. Will also be necessary in countries like Sudan. Will be necessary in countries like Yemen and other nation states. And so if the intention here is to help the most people, I do think ultimately he could have helped more people through another method. I don't think it's likely that this is going to end with the revolution that he wanted, or with the overthrow of, you know, the regime that he wants. I think he could have had much more help, or helped much more people by doing that, by staying alive. And he probably would have not had the most painful possible human experience before death in a fiery, horrific way to die. Lastly, I don't want to like praise this really. I don't doubt this person's conviction. When you listen to him gutturally scream those words as he burns, he truly intended to use his body as a smoke signal. I was going to say microphone, but I feel smoke signal might be more appropriate here. As a smoke signal for for people to see the crisis that's going on in Gaza, to see the slaughter, to see the butchering, to see the awfulness. And I'm worried that if we treat this like commendable, like this is great behavior, this is fantastic, this is a good thing to do, if there's people online with deep mental problems who feel horrible about what's going on, or who even knows how deep the mental problem are, that they might start thinking that, oh snap, the way I can help all those people burning in their buildings to death is by also burning in my building, or burning to death myself. And I don't want to encourage that. I'm going to tell all of you guys, you can have much more impact alive. And you got one shot, okay? You got one shot on this planet. Use that life wisely. I'm not saying never put it on the line. I'm not saying ever risk it. I'm the last person who could say something like that. For some people, in order to live the life you want to live, that might include risking your life, putting it on the line, which means maybe a shorter life, but at least you got to live the life you got to live, or to live the life you want to live. And burning all of that up to start that life cycle anew, because you thought that using yourself as a torchlight for the Palestinian people was going to liberate them. Well, I think it comes from the best of intentions, and I think this guy probably had a really good soul at the bottom of his chest. I really do. Ultimately, I don't think this is going to have that much of an effect, and I really don't want to encourage this type of behavior, because I see and I know how down in the depths of the horrid dread you can get into when you think about the consequences of violence and things outside of your control, and how powerless you can feel. And I don't want anybody to think that a way to empower yourself is by taking your own life. I don't. Start the life cycle anew. Are you believing in reincarnation? No, I mean, like, you know, you die and you fucking think about what tree you want to be, you know? What type of mushroom am I going to be?